Welcome back to yet another episode of Unearth with Sasha-Shae. Hey, I'm your host, Sasha-Shae. All right, so let's just jump into today's episode. What exactly are we going to be covering? So for a little, okay, a good while, the topic of or God given identity, especially as creatives, especially when we are multi passionate, especially as, just people who we obviously we've lived a life, we've experienced many different things, and, there are a lot of how would I say, a lot of ways where we kind of begin to lose our sense of self, and then as well, how that, plays out into different types of relationships. And when I say relationships, I'm not just speaking about like romantic relationships, because I know most people, that's like your de facto, definition of like a relationship. But I also mean like, your paternal, I guess, your or parental, your friendships, whatever, work, school, however you have to interact with people, right? Those different kinds of relationships. So, let's just jump in, I guess, shall we? So, I'm not sure how many people were able to listen or watch. Yeah, it's a video. Watch the testimonial that I recently did. Well, it was filmed back in December of last year, and I, it recently got finished, and then I shared it out. And if you haven't seen it yet, I will put the link for it in the show notes, and also, yeah, in the blog associated with this podcast. Uh, but in that video, as I was sharing my testimony, there are a lot of different things that I tried to touch on in a very condensed, short period of time. And I remember, I think one of the questions that I was asked was about like, how I guess, how did I learn or relearn how to be confident or something like that. It was something like that. Now, I'm not going to sit here and act like, oh my gosh, I am at 100% when it comes to confidence, right? Because that's definitely not the case. However, what I will say is that, yeah, it's been a journey. Definitely over the last, I would say, 5 or so years, I have seen how the Lord absolutely has had me on a sort of journey to, rediscover my own self, really tap back into who it is that He made me to be. And I will not lie to you, it was not an easy process. There were a lot of, pushback, halting, a lot of just not wanting to, I guess, submit fully to that process, because let's face it, when you have to, become even more introspective. So by nature, I'm already an introspective person. I'm curious, all that stuff. And so I tend to self reflect often, but this kind of a process was, it was a little more deep. And in all honesty, it's painful, right? It's very painful to sit there and say, okay, let's pull back all the layers and really start to dig into like, okay, why does certain things trigger you, or why are you affected by when, maybe, I don't know, maybe when someone says XYZ, like why does that affect you in the way that it does, that type of thing. And especially when you're in that middle of your relationship with God, right? And you're already questioning certain things, trying to understand, hey, where are you leading me? What are you trying to do? What is happening? What's going on? All these different questions. And then you have the confusion of that, like that loss of your sense of self. I feel as though that is one of the biggest ways the enemy tries to derail us, right? Because let's face it, if you are completely secure, you are completely certain, sure, like you know who you are, you know exactly what you are about, you know what you stand for, you know what things that people say, and it's just they mean it in a hurtful way and you don't like internalize that, all those different things, right? Once you are able to stand fully firm in that, you are a mighty warrior, right, for the Lord. And I've definitely seen personally, for me, I can only speak for myself, that those times when it was just like, man, I don't even know if I'm like good enough, for something, or I don't even know if the Lord is still in my corner, or just whatever the case was. I could see where that was absolutely one of those things where, yeah, the enemy was just trying to mess with my mind, mess with what it is that the Lord has called me to do. Now, I've previously mentioned to y'all, I'm still trying to figure out fully what it is that God has called me to do. However, one of the key things I'm learning, realizing, settling into is that a big part of that is going to be, how do you continue to stand firm? Now, granted, I've stood firm. I would say I stood firm in, given life's situations. How, but like, you know, fully really being rooted in where when everything from underneath you falls apart, right? Like the entire floor goes missing, right? And you are just falling into like a semen abyss or whatever the case is. How do you make sure that none of those type of things sways how you feel? It won't alter your praise, right? So that's been, yeah, for the, I think I said 5 years, but I feel like it's even been longer than 5 years that we've just been on this journey together. And I guess with that, I'll just share with you some of the lessons I guess I've learned, across those 5 years. Like I said, number one, being secure in your identity, fully yourself, right? And that's the next thing that I know, especially as Christians, especially when you are of the creative mindset as well. It's so easy to fall into this trap of you're trying to mold yourself, right? Because ultimately, a lot of the times, you don't necessarily fit in, right? And like, you don't really fit in anywhere, to be honest. But they're the few faithful few who they understand you for who you truly are. They see all of you, they accept all of you, but that's usually very few and far in between, right? And with that, it's like you find yourself wanting to sort of mold yourself to be like, oh, maybe if I do XYZ, they'll accept me. Or maybe if I don't say, the full extent of what was on my mind. I don't know. Whatever the case is, we tend to want to dim ourselves. We want to pull back, hold back on who we fully, truly are. And, you do something like that long enough, obviously the devil runs with that and he's just like, hey, let's leave this person very confused about exactly who they are. So my first lesson would definitely be becoming more secure, more rooted, more deeply rooted in exactly who it is that the Lord has called you to be, the identity that he has given to you as expressed in his word, right? So he already told us we are fearfully and wonderfully made. He has told us that we are his royal priesthood. Like there are many different scriptures. Maybe I will add scriptures in the show notes and on the video if you're watching this on YouTube. But yeah, like being fully secure in that and unwavering about what it is he's said about you individually, that definitely matters. Another lesson I would say is learn how to identify the relationships that truly help you to grow. So a lot of times we get to a space where maybe, I don't know if this is maybe because you're, again, that need for like, yes, you want community, yes, you want to be one for lack of a better terms with people or whatever the case is, or it could even just be people pleasing, I don't know. But the point is, there are lots of times where we tend to notice that this person may not be the most ideal for me, or this person may, it's like you're putting in more than they're actually ever given, right? So it quickly becomes this one-sided friendship of sorts, and you start to question, like, is this even really my friend, that type of thing. And I've definitely learned over the years where it's like, listen, if you have people in your life where you can't fully say, like, yeah, no, this person is for me, this person really is my friend, this person, I could count on this person, like, if something went wrong, whatever the case is, then chances are, yeah, that's, you're just going to have to accept the fact that this is just an acquaintance and you got to keep it moving, right? And I think learning sooner than later how to identify where you fall in a person's life, that goes a long way. That's for sure. I'm the person where I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, right? I definitely, yes, I know humans could be terrible. I'm aware, but I, I like to not just assume, like, hey, this person's gonna be this, that, the third, and the fourth. I rather to be like, wow, everybody starts at, you are an amazing human being until you prove otherwise to me. So once they start proving the otherwise to me, and it becomes a repeated thing, because again, there's also grace, there's also mercy, where if a person does something once, obviously don't write them off just because, okay, the one thing, but like, assess what the situation is. Assess, is this something where you guys could sit down, you could talk about it, you could overcome this, right? Yeah, so that's typically how I approach stuff. But if I'm noticing, or if you start to notice as well, that this is a person where they repeatedly disrespect your boundaries, they repeatedly show that they don't really care about you, the person. They only care about what it is you could offer them, what it is you bring to the table for their benefit. And a case in point of that would be, like, let's say something comes up where they needed you to do something for them, right? And it's probably going to be a little out of your way to be able to do it for them, but you did it for them because you genuinely care about this person. If the reversal comes and you notice where every single time it's the reverse, where they have to do something for you, and they're always, oh, they're busy, or they make, they find some excuse why they can't show up for you in that kind of a capacity, understand that, okay, cool, they may care about you, but not that much. You understand what I'm saying? So, like, learning to assess where you stand in people's lives, and having, I guess, not unmet expectations, or just being clear, right? Because clarity is such a gift. So being clear explicitly about your value in that person's life, their value in your life, that saves so much headaches going down the line. What else? I've learned as well, just being willing to surrender. And I feel like at this point, this is a broken record topic that I keep bringing back up on the podcast right now. But honestly, being willing to truly surrender, and that doesn't always, it doesn't always look great. It doesn't always feel nice. Sometimes it is seriously a headache to, sit there and say, oh my gosh, Lord, I really have to just trust you in this. And one thing I'm learning, have learned, but keep having to relearn is that you can't say that you truly believe in God and not exercise full trust, right, in Him. So to have faith in Him is to explicitly say, you know what, I honestly cannot see beyond my hand, but I'm just gonna leave it all to you. And, whatever you see fit to do, wherever you see fit to send, wherever, whatever it is that He sees fit, that's what it's gonna be. And I'm just gonna have to be okay with that. Yeah, that's definitely been one where, it's been a challenge because given my past with like how people, have made me feel like, man, I can't really trust people like that. I've realized over time that kind of translated to like, wow, Lord, I felt very forsaken. And I think over the years, it just became this thing where I trust you, but not really, like I'm gonna still have my plan B because, hey, I remember when, and I think this was a very subconscious thing that was happening where it's just like, I remember when XYZ happened, where were you kind of thing. So, yeah, I had to really reason, learn how to reason with God about what it really means to trust Him in spite of, and to trust Him, um, yeah, to trust Him when I can't see a way forward and when I do not understand. What's another lesson I have learned? I have learned that we absolutely need to, yeah, prioritize like that relationship with God, that relationship with others, right? We look at our world right now, there's so many people who are going through a myriad of things that we may not even know about, we're unaware of. And as Christians, because the majority of the people listening to this podcast, I assume you guys are Christians like myself, but our responsibility, right, as believers in Jesus Christ is that we say we're going to profess Him to the world. And it may not be us standing in a pulpit. It may not even be something like this, where, on a podcast or whatever the case is. It could be as simple as you're at work and you're around your coworkers. How do you relate to them, right? Or you're in school, for those of you in school, how are you relating to your teachers, your classmates, the people that you see there when you're in the school, or just in general, like how are you relating to the people, the humans that are around you? So whether that was, that's the people in your household, the people in your church, the people that you've been assigned to some way, somehow, just based on the proximity of, where you're located, whatever the case is. And even mentioned in church, like as a caveat, I know I was talking about assessing like value, relationship, that type of stuff. I know there are a lot of people who they faced church hurt, and that could look many different ways, right? Like church hurt doesn't look one way, and it's so funny that a lot of people kind of think like it has to look one way, and the results of how people like internalize that or deal with it also only looks one way. And it's just like, no, people could process their church hurt by just not showing up to a specific church, right? They could still be in church. Not everyone who faces church hurt end up on the outside completely of the church. They just choose for their own like mental health, for their own sanity, right, to not deal with whatever was going on at the actual local body that they used to be in. But yeah, mentioning with church and whatever, like a lot of times too, I've seen where, because that's technically your home, right? That is going to be, in addition to your actual home, one of the places where you get stretched a lot, a lot. And some of the times it gets ugly, these are people. So again, the people in your household and then the people in church oftentimes are going to be the people that you are around a lot or the most, right? So there are going to be things that comes up that challenges you in wild, weird, crazy ways. And I've seen where the Lord, he totally uses everything. Nothing is ever wasted. That's another lesson too that I had to learn over the years. Nothing is wasted. Some of the times, you face stuff and you're just like, hmm? Like, I don't understand why this was necessary, in my story. But later on, right? Later on, it clicks and you're just like, oh, I see why I had to face that for this particular time that I'm in now. I've had that, definitely that kind of experience when it comes to like the visual design strategy work stuff that I do, where years prior I would have some experiences and I'm just like, this was so random, so unnecessary. And then fast forward to like 2 years later or so, and I'm like, oh wow, that actually, yeah, going through that experience really helped out for now. So all that to say, yeah, learn to accept the lessons that the Lord is trying to teach you. Learn to just submit and surrender to Him, and you could really only start that submission process to Him when you become more secure and more rooted in exactly who it is that He has called you to be. So my sounds like I'm about to do an appeal, right? But nah. My, I guess, just takeaway from today's episode, and hopefully something that will resonate with you as you go forward, doing whatever you're doing. I don't know what time you're listening to this. So whatever you're doing at this moment that you're listening to this, I just want us to all remember that the times we're living in calls for us to be fully secure, fully sure in who we are in Christ, so that we could be great representatives for Him, and so that as we are more firm in the foundation of who He is, we are more firm in our identity of what it is that He has called us to be, to do, to live. We are able to just show others that, yeah, it's not, it's really not as cumbersome, I guess, as we often think it is. It's just a matter of a growing process, and we just have to be willing, right? Be willing to go through it. So, all right, I'm gonna just cut this one right here before this becomes super super chatty. So thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. If you are watching the video on YouTube, thank you for watching. Definitely, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Or if you're listening to this on Apple, Spotify, Google, somewhere else, I don't know, feel free to leave a review and a rating so I could know what it is that you like, what part of it you liked or what you want to hear more of. Totally open to hearing that. All right, until the next episode, I will catch y'all later. Bye.